Good evening. It's a tremendous pleasure for me to participate in this wonderful series presented by Project Inspire. It is really a privilege and a really an opportunity to be part of that magnificent organization. And I also want to thank the people at TorahAnytime.com through whose platform we come to this evening. Not just for tonight, I want to thank them for all the shiurim that they host, which I take advantage of on a regular basis. And on top of that, for their special services during this COVID-19 crisis, where they are doing amazing work. Tonight, I was asked to speak about finding your place in the universe. There is a magnificent universe out there. And we, each and every human being, we're kind of like puny as compared to the size of the universe. The universe is, I don't know, when you look up at the nighttime sky, you can see 150 billion stars if you had the right equipment. We are one of 150 billion galaxies. It's a huge universe. We kind of like come up pretty small in terms of our proportion in the world, right? So what is that about? What am I doing in this universe? Another question we're going to look at tonight is, what is the centrality of Torah in Yiddishkeit? What is my purpose in the universe? And Torah obviously is very central to Yiddishkeit. So why is it that Torah is so central? In fact, the Navi tells us in Yeshua, La Yomash Sefer HaTorah Hazeh Mipicha, that this Torah shall not depart from your lips. Meaning we should always be learning Torah. V'hagisa b'yom v'layla, and you should be engrossed in it day and night. And this statement is told to Yeshua during wartime while Klal Yisrael is out there conquering Eretz Yisrael. And yet a malach is sent to Yeshua and he castigates him that there's not enough limud Torah being learned. There's not enough Torah being learned. This is during wartime. So the demand of the malach is really great on Yeshua. Similarly, we find in Yerachmiel, Im loy brisa yom v'layla, chuka shamayim v'oretz leisamti. If not for my covenant of Yom V'Layla, what is that, the Yom V'Layla? V'gisa ba Yom V'Layla, to learn Torah day and night, which means the bris, the covenant we're talking about, is the obligation for Torah. Chuka shamayim v'oretz leisamti, I never would have created the universe. So Torah is at the very center of the universe. In Bereshis bar elikim es hashamayim es haaretz. Bereshis is a unique expression. What does it mean, Bereshis? So there are many different pshatim, and one of them is Bishvil HaTorah shenikra Reshis, that the world, the entire creation, is created because of Torah that's called Reshis. In the Shema, we talk about the concept of Vishinantom Livonecha, that we have to teach it to our children. It should be shenunim. The words of Torah should be so familiar to us. They should be part and parcel of our vocabulary. V'dibar tabam, we say in the Kriya Shema. V'dibar tabam v'loy b'dvarim acherim. You shall speak exclusively in Torah, not anything else. So how do we understand that when this seems to be really a contradiction to other precepts that we find in the Torah? In fact, the Gemara in Brachas Lamed Hey Amud Beis, the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, v'yosafta diganecha, the Rabbanan learned, v'yosafta, you shall gather in your harvest. Ma tamid loymar, what does this mean? Diganecha should gather in your produce. Lefisha nemer, because it says in the pasuk, lo yomash sefer Torah zeh mipicha. Meaning the question of the Gemara is, why do you have to tell me to gather in my produce? What would be wrong with that? So he says, no, because this could be, in fact, a contradiction to lo yomash sefer Torah zeh mipicha that we just read. This could be a contradiction to that because you're not supposed to go away from Torah even for a moment. And here you're going to gather in your grain. Talmud loymar v'safta deganecha. It's almost like giving you permission to gather in your grain. Haneg bahem minag derech eretz. We have to conduct ourselves in the way of the world, in a way which is natural. So there's learning and there's also work. Divrei Rabbi Yerachmiel. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yerachmiel. Reb Shimon bar Yochai says, Efshir Adam Chayresh B'Shas Charisha, is it possible that someone plows at the time that plowing is required? V'Zayreya B'Shas Zariya, and he plants when planting is required. V'Koitzer, and he reaps the harvest B'Shas Ketzira during the harvest season, and etc. Torah Matahela, if you're going to be so busy farming, what's going to be with the Torah? Who's going to be learning the Torah? So therefore, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, no, Devarim Kichsavan. He holds that, in fact, it's exactly as it is stated, that v'dibar tabam means all the time. Amar Abayas, Abayas said, Harbe Yasuk Rabbi Yerachmiel v'olsa biyadan. Many did like Rabbi Yerachmiel, meaning they balanced their lives with parnasa and learning. And they succeeded. However, Reb Shimon, many did like Reb Shimon, they did not succeed. Wait a second, isn't this a contradiction to what we just read, the psukim we read? And more than that, we just read not long ago in Parshas Bechukaisai, in Bechukaisai tilechu u'mitzvaisai tishmeru, if you will go in my ways, my precepts, and you'll keep my mitzvahs. So Rashi says, what does it mean, Bechukaisai tilechu, you'll go in my precepts? It can't mean the mitzvahs, because that's the very next phrase in the pasuk. So it must be, says Rashi, in B'chukaisei telechu, bringing down, quoting the Torah Kehanim, that what it's talking about is, you ready? B'chukaisei telechu, shetihiyu amelim b'Torah, should be toiling in Torah. Not just involved in learning Torah, but toiling in Torah. So isn't this a contradiction of the Gemara Maseches Brachos? What is going on here? How do we understand the balance here? And the other question is, aren't women exempt from the obligation of studying Torah? And yet, in B'chukaisei telechu shetiya amelim b'Torah, should be toiling in Torah, doesn't seem to exempt women there. So it could be, if from the other commandments, perhaps v'shirantam livanecha, so women are exempt, but they're not exempt when it comes to the concept of in B'chukaisei telechu. So how are we to understand all this? So to answer these questions, and the questions we mentioned at the beginning, I'd like to review or give us a short primer on the purpose of the world itself. The universe was created by Kadosh Baruch Hu. What prompted Kivayachal Kadosh Baruch Hu to create the universe? Why did Kadosh Baruch Hu create the universe with us inside of it? And the answer is, in the words of Reb Chaim Betal, quoting his Rabbi the Arizal, Kishiratzali Karei Tov. Kadosh Baruch Hu is a Tov. His definition is Tov. And when he decided to express his goodness, he created us in order to be mative to us, to do good with us. If there are other ways of looking at it, the Mesilas Yesharim certainly talks about, and what is the Tov that he does with us? L'sanag Hashem, to give us pleasure from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'lanois b'ziv shchinasai, and the Tainug Amiti, and the real pleasure of the world to come. But there's no question that there's also a tremendous amount of Tainug and pleasure in this world as well. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us, in short, in summary, for our benefit, to do for us. And whatever paradigm you have for understanding this, it really at its most basic means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us as physical beings in a physical world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not physical, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is spiritual. The two of them are really contradictory, and it is our life's work to transcend the physical and to bond or to cleave kaviyachol with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's, in a nutshell, what it's all about. Why do I say that ruchnius and gashmius, that physicality and spirituality are opposites? Because when the Mekubalim talk about how the world was created, how is it that there can be a physical world when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all spiritual? And so they talk about that there was a tzimtzum kivayachal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu retrenched or retreated, and in the negative space that was left over, that became physical reality. Meaning the automatic opposite of spiritual is physical. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us as physical beings in a physical world, in order to transcend that physicality and rise up and cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bond with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how did he do that? How do you transcend that? How do you make the leap from being physical to transcending the physicality and turning ourselves into spiritual beings? That is through the Torah. So the Torah is the medium. If you will, it's the interface of how we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's another system that we use that requires an interface in our lives. It's called the computer. Computing is a system. The universe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created is a system. The purpose of the system, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A computer is also a system. And a computer also requires an interface in order for it to be productive and be used by human beings. In fact, the Chafetz Chaim talks about technology as being a tremendous lesson for humanity. When the radio was invented, and it was told to the Chafetz Chaim, it can reden in Paris und hören in New York, that someone can utter a phrase in Paris and it can be heard in New York. They told him that. He said, wow, that so much fortifies our understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being the Oizen Shemas. That all the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens, V'chol Masecha B'Sefer Nechtavim, and he said this is a great chizuk for Yiras Shamayim. He spoke about the train in similar fashion. When the train made its debut throughout the world, similar fashion, right? So we have here a case history, if you will, of the Chafetz Chaim using technology as a mashal for understanding our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I would like to follow in his footsteps, so to speak, and see if we can understand from the computer what our relationship is to the universe itself. You know, there are many different levels of users when it comes to computers. There's a level called a novice. A novice is, we can picture what a novice is. A novice is probably someone who has very limited experience in using a computer, and they're very limited in the use of the computer. However, there is a level below the novice. The level below the novice is someone who cannot use a computer at all. There is life on this planet that does not make use of computers, and that would be the animals, right? A cow definitely can have some use for computer. In fact, the cow can use the computer in place of a tree stump and sit down on it or lie down on it. Probably crush it because cows tend to be very physical and very large, and they can crush the computer. But one level of relationship with the computer is a cow, where a cow really has absolutely no understanding of the potential of the computer or what it's all about. And to a cow, it's just a block. It's something to sit on, right? There are people who have that same relationship with Torah. Now, Torah has a tremendous power in that Chazal tell us, Histakel baraisa bara alma, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the Torah in order to create the world, that the Torah was the blueprint of the world. And it's simple understanding. What this means is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a mitzvah of kabed es avicha v'esimecha, to honor your folks, honor your parents. And which is why Chazal say we have parents, meaning there are many ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have brought our existence into this world. It didn't have to be through a mother and a father. So Chazal say Torah is central to the universe. And therefore the reason that we have parents is that we can keep the mitzvah of kabed es avicha v'esimecha. And there are many, many other mishalim to that in the Torah. We tend to see our lives as being at the epicenter of the universe itself. And therefore, the Torah gives us mitzvahs to relate to the epicenter of our lives. And the answer is exactly the opposite. That in fact, the Torah is the blueprint, the Torah is the cause, the Torah is the cause to the universe, and we are simply the effect, and our lives reflect the mitzvahs and the concepts of Torah. And therefore, stakel baraisa ubara alma. So there are people who relate to that concept as a cow would relate to a computer. There are people who maybe, I don't know, maybe they use some ancient books they inherited from their grandparents that may be books of Torah, Rahman al-Itzlan, as a paperweight, or worse. Or some people might use it, the Torah, even concepts of Torah, to argue against it, to make a political point. People may have different uses for Torah, but if they don't recognize the potential of Torah, obviously they are not being very effective in their relationship with the Torah. So the first step is, the lowest step of relating to the Torah is people don't relate much at all to the Torah except as an object, as a dead object. And therefore they occupy a space in this universe, kind of like the cows, because if it's true that the Torah is the essence of the universe, it means that just as a computer requires code in order for the computer to operate, in fact, if you think about it for a moment, what came first, the coding for the computer or the computer? And the answer would have to be, you'd have to create the code first and then build a computer accordingly. Histakel baraisa bar alma. You start with the code, you start with the language that the computer understands, and then you create a computer that understands it. You don't simply throw together a hairball of wires and circuits and then hope that somehow it's going to understand your code. So the code for computers is the operating system, or the language that's used to create the operating system. And in fact, the Torah is the code, lahavdil, is the code for the universe that makes the universe go around. So if you know the coding for the computer, you can create a functioning system. If you know the code of the universe, you can use a functioning system. So the lowest level is people who simply relegate the Torah to being some object out there without any understanding of the potential, the power of the object. Let's go a little further. Then you have novice users. What's a novice user of a computer? He knows how to turn it on, and he probably can do some passive things, can't create anything major, can't do anything really creative with the computer, but you know what, probably can surf the internet, probably can play some simple games. It doesn't take computer genius to be able to do that. And so too, there are people who have a very casual relationship with Torah. They don't understand the power of Torah, and maybe they can use the Torah as entertainment. Some people will want to listen to a shiur, right, once in a while, not for any reason because they think it's going to improve their lives or it's going to make any difference in the universe, but simply because it's maybe just a form of entertainment. There's some decent speakers out there. Some of them are quite funny. Some of them have great senses of humor. And you know what? You might want to tune in, which is a good thing because you never know. Sometimes you tune in because of the entertainment value and you walk away with a diamond, right, with a pearl. So it's a good motivation, at least to start to relate to the computer or to the Torah, which is in fact the code to the universe. So some people's relationship with Torah is like the novice's relationship with the computer. They can't really do much with it, but it's certainly entertaining and it certainly serves some function for them. The next level would be people who actually can do things with the computer. Simple things, but things such as create a Word document, create a word processing document. It's creative. You have to think about the words. You have to come up with sentences that flow. You have to come up with grammar that makes sense in general, especially if you're to send that letter out to somebody, because after all, you know how to email. Even the novice knows how to do that, right? So therefore, they can use the computer to create at a very low level, but to create. Could have done the same thing on a typewriter. You're not really using the power of the computer necessarily, but you could have done that. Maybe you could run a spreadsheet program, a simple spreadsheet program. You can store some data. You can even design a table for yourself. That's good. That's good stuff. There are people who have that level of acuity when it comes to Torah. And they can use the Torah for very simple things. There are concepts that are out there that make sense to them. Across some dror ba'aretz, in this country, they seem to think that means that everybody has freedom, when we know, in fact, it refers to yovel, but it doesn't make a difference. Love your fellow as yourself. You know, there are certain words you can throw around and even act in a certain way that's of heightened morality. Nothing great, but certainly some basic things. The value, I don't know, of family, the value of children. There are wonderful things in Torah that are there that really can help people start to realize that there is real value in Torah. There is real value in Torah. There are concepts there that perhaps I could use in my life to make myself a better life. So we would consider those people not advanced users, certainly, of a computer, but those are people who can actually do things that begin to be productive in their lives. And so too with the Torah, people can have a rudimentary understanding of Torah, a rudimentary relationship with Torah, and actually gain from it, because every level and every connection of Torah can get you places, because after all, it has the unlimited wisdom and genius of God. The next level would be people who actually do unique things on the computer. And that could be even within a word processing program, perhaps run a macro, create a macro. Those of you who know what that is, it's an automated function. And you can do something that really serves you well. You can create a macro that really does something that automates a task that would be tedious otherwise. And it really is something which is creative, and you can do that on your own. You can use a spreadsheet not just to store data, but you can create what's called a pivot table. And in a pivot table, the different cells interact with each other, and there are equations that interpret the relationship. And it's really, really clever. And some people say you just can't run a business today without a pivot table. You need a pivot table in order to really run a business and really, really be somewhat of a more powerful user of the computer. So too, there are people who learn Torah critically. In other words, you have to be somewhat of an expert user at least. You have to know your word processing really well, your spreadsheet program really well, whatever relational database you're using really, really well, to be able to make it do things. You have to know your Torah really, really well in order to be able to make it to do things, in order to be able to make it to enhance your life, in order to influence the universe around you and make it a better place. You have to be able to know the code of the Torah in order to make the universe a far better place, a far more improved place, which is something that we can do. Well, the next level after that is that you could be a very sophisticated users of computer, but you are at a category way below what would be the top category of computing. And that would be people who know the code. People who can write their own operating systems. People who can increase the functionality of the computer, who could bring out the full potential of that computer. People who can make the computer do things that it never did before. Not that long ago, someone introduced the concept of 3D printing. That's a tremendous breakthrough. In 3D printing, you're creating things that could not be created, that are not only conceptual or informational, but they're very physical. You can print a heart valve, and they've done that. There are people who print bicycles. In the recent COVID-19 crisis, there was tremendous worry that there weren't enough ventilators to go around in the hospitals. And so someone figured out that you can connect 2 patients to a ventilator, but you needed a little extension appliance that would extend 1 ventilator to 2 people. And guess what? You could print that on a 3D printer. You could print swabs. The country was out of swabs for testing, laboratory swabs. And they printed that, and they really made a tremendous difference. So 3D printing was just a very small and insignificant example. It just shows you that there are vistas that are as yet unexplored when it comes to computing. To use the computer in new ways that hasn't been used before, to take full advantage of the computing power, you really have to understand it well. You have to kind of like enter the secret world of what the codes are all about. And with certain proprietary systems like Apple, you really can't do that unless you have special access. You have to be really high in the computing world in order to have access to that. Lahavdol elef avdalas. When it comes to Torah, there's something very similar. There are people who learn Torah. There are people who are astute in their learning, people who know their learning, they review their learning, and they're growing in their learning. And those people are tremendous, but there's another level of people who become expert at Torah. Great Talmidei Chachamim. And they can create new realities in the world, not really new realities, but new possibilities that didn't exist before. And we all know this intuitively. Chas v'shalom, if someone is sick, and we do the best to get the best healing for that person, and somehow we feel it's not enough, we may go to a great tzaddik, like Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And we may ask for a bracha. And why do we go to the tzaddik, and why don't we just daven on our own? Because we know that once you understand the Soidais HaTorah, once you know Torah so well that you achieve something called Das Torah, or thinking like in the world of Torah, then Tzaddik Goizer V'Hashem Mekayim. You can change the outcomes. Tzaddik Goizer V'Hashem Mekayim. A tzaddik promises something, he issues an edict, and Hashem, Kaviyachol, listens to that. The world changes because of that. The Torah gives us certain mitzvahs that require a certain amount of Das Torah. It requires Kaviyachol thinking like God. We learn the Torah, and then when you learn the Torah and you plumb its depths, you start to understand a little bit, just a little bit, a hint about what the author had intended on some level. Just a hint where it's revealed. So therefore when it says, V'hasisa hayashar v'hatoiv, you'll do what's right and what's good, which the Rambam uses very often when he doesn't find a direct source for a particular mitzvah or a particular conduct, particular midah. So what does it mean you'll do hayashar what's straight, v'hatoiv what's good? How do you know that? How do you interpret that? Well, you have to be someone who's on a level. You have to have plumbed the depths of Torah. Which means that the Torah, mastering the Torah, is at the very center of the universe. What is our place in the universe? Our place is that if we connect to Torah, we can change the universe for the better. They used to say that the way people learn in Volozhin, that's how the styles emerge from Paris, meaning you do something good in study of Torah, the world has more Kedusha, and suddenly the styles have more tznius in them. They're more modest, right? It's incredible the power that every single individual has when they connect to Torah. There are many, many stories of people who are not even on the highest level, who are on lower levels, as we said with the computer, maybe novice levels or moderate levels, who have done things that are amazing. There's a famous story about a relatively simple Jew who lived in a town in pre-war Europe many years ago. And this pretty simple Jew, although I don't think there's any such thing as truly a simple Jew, at some point in his life, people started coming to him for brachas, for blessings, and they would come true. And people said, he's really nothing special. How do his blessings come true? And a buzz went up in the town. And the news of this reached the rabbi. And the rabbi, who was a great Gaon, said he's going to investigate. How is it that a relatively simple person gives blessings that seem to work? He was hoping he wasn't somehow involved in the dark side in any way. So he summoned the man. And the man comes before the rabbi, and he's so nervous, he's never been summoned to a rabbi before in his life. He's a relatively simple person. And the rabbi sits him down. He says, I heard that recently your blessings are coming true. What is the power of your blessings? He said, dear rabbi, he says, I really am a simple person. And I don't know why, but recently when I do mention these things, when I do bless people because they come and I wish them well, it happens. So the rabbi says, no, you have to think. What do you do for a living? He says, well, that's a little complicated. He says, well, what's complicated? He said, well, I'm in business, and I have a business, and it's a business that requires constant influx of capital. I have to buy merchandise to be able to sell it. I really don't have the money to do that. So what I used to do was I used to take a partner. I would take a partner, an investor, and he'd get 50%, I get 50%, and I had a succession of partners because I didn't get along well with partners. Partners and I, they don't seem to get along. And before you know it, we have a dispute and a fight, and it breaks up, and there I am again without a partner. So I go find another partner. One day I said to myself, I'm sick and tired of partners. So what I did was, I decided to go at it alone. And it was a disaster. After a month of not being able to feed my wife and kids, my wife turns to me and says, I know you don't want to have a partner because there's a lot of trouble, but you got to get a partner. So I said to myself, okay. I left the house, I went into the woods, I looked up to the heavens. I said, Rabbi Shalom, I can't find good partners. So here's the deal. You're going to be my partner. We're going to split the money 50-50. What I make, the 50% is mine, and the other 50% I'm going to put in a box, and that box, when it comes filled up with money, I'm going to feed the orphans, and I'm going to take care of the widows, and I'm going to feed the hungry, and that's what I'm going to do with my money. He said, ever since I made that partnership, my business started to flourish, and I can't explain it, and my blessings come true. So the rabbi turned to the man and he said, what you told me makes a whole lot of sense. You see, the Gemara says that if you have a partnership and one partner acts alone without consulting his partner, let's say he sells a share, he sells part of what they own in partnership, Masha asa asui, what he did, and that's permanent. It's not a good idea to sell out part of your possessions that you have with a partner without consulting him first, obviously. But if he did it because he's a partner, he's able to do it. He says, since you're partners with Hashem and you promise people things and you bless them, then Hashem is your partner. And even though you didn't consult with him, he's got to do it because he's your partner. My dear friends, there's tremendous power in Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a Torah, which is magnificent. Aruka me eretz mida, the knowledge, the wisdom of Torah, but also the sheer power of Torah. Torah was designed so that there'd be a universe in which we practice the Torah. Histakel b'raisa ubara alma. You can look in the Torah and create a world. You could study the Torah, know the secrets of the Torah. I didn't even talk about them with Kabbalah out there who really have done amazing things. But it's not that they're doing it on their own, they're doing it through Torah. I once went to a very chashuv Rebbe, and I told him about a man who was performing seeming miracles. And the Rebbe asked me, is he also a Talmud Chacham? And I had to say no. He said that the guy is a fake, a fraud, and a phony. It's not possible to do the things that he claims to be doing without knowing Torah, because the power comes from Torah. Torah is that unbelievable code that makes the world go round. We are here, bishvil ha-Torah, bereishis bara, bishvil ha-Torah. And Torah should never be distant from us. Yes, some of us cannot physically sit and learn all day. Some of us do have to go to work. Some of us have to do like Rabbi Yerachmiel. But nonetheless, you have to understand that your focus is still the Torah. When you're away during the day, when you're working during the day, your focus has to be Torah. Your focus has to be in the Kiddush Hashem that you're making in your workplace. The honesty and the integrity you bring to the workplace. That too is Torah. That too is Amelus B'Torah. That's also toiling in Torah. When I finally am freed from my place of work and I come home, what's the first thing I do? Do I open a book or do I open a sefer? Am I clamoring for the scores in the sports game, or am I clamoring just for another word of Torah? It is available to everybody, men, women, children, everybody. This connection to Torah, this understanding that Torah is at the very heart of what existence is all about. Histakel baraisa ubara alma. We have the power. What is our role in the universe? What place do we play in the universe? It's huge. Because by us indulging in Torah, relating to Torah, practicing Torah, learning Torah, we can change the very course of human history. The power of Torah can be used to end the COVID crisis. The power of Torah can be used to end suffering. The power of Torah can be used to spread chesed in the world. You heard of Hatzalah? You heard of Shomrim? They're using the concepts that we understand in Yiddishkeit of Hatzalas Nefashos in a way that's never been done before. World-changing. The Shomrim people have been running around for months, preventing people from having to go to hospitals who are suffering with COVID virus. How did they do that? They brought them breathing machines, not ventilators, but breathing machines under pressure, oxygen machines. Doing it for nothing, running around 24/7, saving lives. Through Torah, you save lives. Through the mitzvahs, you save lives. Through study of Torah, you change the world. Which is to say, Shavuos is coming up next week, Be'ezer Hashem. That is the Yom Tov where we celebrate the gift of the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gifted us. That is the Yom Tov that we celebrate our relationship with Torah. This is the Yom Tov that we should hopefully be renewing our commitment to Torah, to elevate our commitment to Torah. And if we do that, we will have the power to improve every area of our lives. If we do that, we will have the ability to be living the destiny for which we were created. Histakel b'raisa ubara alma. We will be able to limit the suffering. And if we really do it right and elevate ourselves enough, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will find the merit within us so that the grand finale can take place. And we'll all be Zaycha Be'ezer Hashem to the Bias Girl Tzedek B'mher V'yameinu Amen. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening.